some of these games, video games.
Yeah, these video games.
He was said to play video games.
Pointing the finger to video games.
We must stop the glorification of violence in our society. This includes the gruesome and grisly video games that are now commonplace. It is too easy today for troubled youth to surround themselves with a culture that celebrates violence.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
I don't know if I'll do the fighting myself or if other people will.
Maybe you should have been roughed up.
If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
Try not to hurt him. If you do, I'll defend you in court. Don't worry about it. In the good old days, this doesn't happen because they used to treat them very, very rough.
And you know what? The audience swung back. And I thought it was very, very appropriate.
I certainly don't incite violence.
I knew it! It always was the video games, nothing else. Not drugs, not alcohol, not unrestricted access to firearms. No way! Minecraft!
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Phil, or Philly the Kid. Call me whatever you like, and there's just a few things I want to talk about before I get this video started, and that is, one, yes, you got clickbaited. I'm sorry if you came here looking to grill me in the comments because you thought I was actually going to say that video games are violent.
Got him!
And two, the clips in the beginning are not taking shots at Trump supporters. I really don't care about politics. It's more to illustrate the hypocrisy of the media and our politicians right now surrounding this entire video game controversy that's going on, saying that they cause violence or that they're intrinsic with violence or that they're related or linked or somewhat, and it's just complete bullshit. Blaming video games for violence is like blaming ice cream for obesity.
The ice cream man.
The truth is, we shouldn't be blaming ice cream, or in this case, video games. We should be blaming the individual for not managing their propensity to overeat ice cream or to not manage their anger while they are playing video games. Not only is it unfair to assume that the millions of people in the video game community are going to go out and commit violent acts, it's also statistically unfactual. While some studies show that your aggression spikes while you're playing video games, it's nothing really concerning and that it subsides very quickly. It's more like whenever your favorite team loses the football game, or whenever you, say, drop a lug nut down in your engine or something like that. Imagine you're on a 20 kill streak and you get killed by some head-glitching noob using stopping power and steady pro with an LMG just camping in the corner. Like, yeah, I'm gonna be pretty pissed. I'm probably gonna throw my controller and scream some expletive deleteds, but am I gonna go on a killing rampage and shoot up the school? No. This whole video games and violence thing is actually ridiculous, and it's obviously just being used as a walk-around talking point so politicians don't have to have a gun debate. Not only is it unfactual, this could also be dangerous when there is little to no evidence linking violent video games to crime or gun violence of any sort, and to prove that, I'm gonna throw some statistics up on screen for you guys to look at. So as you can see from this chart, the sales of video games has actually gone up exponentially while youth violence has gone down over the past 16 years. We see a slight rise in 2005. I'm gonna Google really fast and see what that might be. Oh shit! Alright, so as you can see, Tony Hawk's American Wasteland came out in 2005, and I take back everything. I mean, seriously, watch this. You guys see that shit? Knocking over a vase, spinning on a fire hydrant, and why does he have a bag on his head? Is he a new age KKK member or some shit? Obviously this proves video games are violent, right?
Wrong.
No, but in all seriousness, here's just a few more studies showing that the youth violence is going down while the video game consumption is going up. And I already know what you're thinking.
But Phil, all those studies are from 2011 and 2006.
Shut up! Nobody cares! You guys sound like boomers. Oh, but GTA came out in 2013. How does that not have a link? How have video games not changed in 6 years and that they're not causing violence now? You don't know. Okay, honestly, what new games have come out? There's been so many remakes and so many remasters. There's no new games coming out and they all have the same premise. Shoot and kill, that's it. But just to prove how ridiculous this is getting and how serious some people are taking it, I'm gonna read you this article that I found by this woman named Lindy Fletcher, or as I like to call her, aka I pull my pants up 2 feet at a time because I'm so much better and smarter than everybody. So the title of this article reads 14 mass murders linked to violent video games. And the opening title goes something like this. It seems that almost every week the airwaves are flooded with mass shootings at the hand of violent, enraged gunmen. Violence and shootings affect hundreds, if not thousands, of innocent people every year, as well as our nation's stability as a whole. Thorough research reports often indicate many mass killers were addicted to violent video games. No links to these reports, by the way, nothing. So who are these violent shooters, you might ask, who are addicted to these violent video games? Well, one happens to be James Holmes, the guy who went into a theater in Colorado and shot it up while The Dark Knight Rises was playing. And what was this violent video game he was addicted to? World of Warcraft.
Oh,
That's a big boy, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right. The game where you could play as Gimli or Scuff Belduffy and cause this guy to run into a theater and shoot 12 people. And this other kid, Evan Ramsey, snuck a shotgun into his high school and shot a student and the principal and wounded 2 others. He claims that a video game, Doom, distorted his version of reality. Quote unquote, I did not understand that if I pull a gun out and shoot you, you're not getting back up. If you shoot a guy in Doom, he gets back up, and you have to shoot him 8 or 9 times before they die. Dylan Roof, or in other words, the Charleston church shooter, spent much of his time playing violent video games. Am I the only one that thinks that this is ridiculous and that they're reaching extremely far for nothing? I mean, World of Warcraft? Doom? Are you kidding me? I mean, they're really picking the low-hanging fruits on this one. World of Warcraft? Like, you gotta be kidding me. Spending too much time playing video games? Is this a joke? Do you know how many hours a day I spend playing violent video games and I've never wanted to go out and shoot somebody up? A lot. What are these games that these kids are playing? Is it Fortnite? Is it Minecraft? Is it, Roblox? I don't know, but this doesn't make any sense. None of this is adding up. You can't just say that they played violent video games and this is what led to them shooting places up. Not only is it ridiculous, they're just assuming that gamers are out here doing this horrific shit. Like, I don't play Call of Duty or any game and ever get the idea that I want to go out and kill people. The idea of that is just beyond me, and I couldn't see any, like 90% of people, I could not see them doing that. This whole study seems like it was just written for boomers who have never played a single video game in their lives, and they're just looking for an excuse to blame the youth for all these violent crimes that are going on. Never mind that the Vegas shooter was in his 60s and he killed more people and injured more people than any of these shootings combined. And I don't know if he was addicted to violent video games, but something tells me, nah, I don't think he was. Like, he's just in his crib playing Candy Crush till 4 in the morning and wakes up one day and he's like, yup, I'm going to Vegas with 20 ARs. Just the sheer amount of hypocrisy surrounding this really pisses me off. It's like they're coming at the younger generation for the problems that the older generations created and avoiding actual problems like poverty, violence in the home, bullying, unfettered access to rifles, drugs and alcohol addiction. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's literally so many things you could blame this on, and they choose video games. It's gotten to the point where they're not even going to advertise things like Call of Duty at Walmart anymore. It's completely fucked. But gaming aside, have you guys ever heard this?
His mental status.
Who wrestled with mental health.
Mental disorders.
Obviously, the guy's insane.
A mental illness problem.
Yes, the good old blame the mental illness for the violent crimes argument. I love it. Because that's what everybody struggling with a mental illness wants to hear. The society's afraid of you, that you're more likely to go out and shoot people up. This argument may be more dangerous than the video games cause violence argument, because for people with a mental illness, they're not going to go out and seek treatment for fear of stigma and the fact that they think that law enforcement or that their family is going to have to be keeping an ever watchful eye on them because they're more likely to go out and commit crimes than usual people, when in fact it's the exact opposite. I'm going to throw up some other statistics for you guys to read, and then you can make your decision then. Like, for an instance, did you know that people with psychosis, which is things like hallucinations, delusions of grandeur, or paranoia, are 14 times more likely to be victims of a violent crime than the actual perpetrators? Or that 95% of homicides are committed by people not diagnosed with a mental health problem? We're just going to go rapid fire. Only 3 to 5% of mentally ill people perpetrate any sort of violence. Only 2% of adults with a mental illness will commit gun violence. A third of people diagnosed with a mental health illness never receive help. The U.S. has only 1/6 of the available beds recommended for mentally ill patients. Now, I guess on the surface you could say that yes, people with a mental illness could commit a mass shooting or a mass crime or something like that, but it's not the mental illness in itself that causes that crime. It's the lack of treatment and the lack of resources for these people to receive the help that they need. So instead of blaming the mental illness, we should be putting blame on the healthcare departments for the lack of resources to help these actual people and the stigma surrounded by it for these people to receive the help that they need. Because when you tell them that they're statistically more likely to go out and shoot somebody up or be violent, they're never going to seek help because they think that that is all that society will see them as, is people who are willing to go out and do these horrific things whenever it's the exact opposite. And for the media to go out and use these stories so flagrantly is actually disgusting, because these people need our care. They don't want us to be scared of them. And I guarantee that some of these shootings that were caused by people who may have had a mental illness would have never happened if there was no stigma or that we actually provided correct treatment for these people. But no, we're actually failing them and using them as a scapegoat to further a political agenda, and that is the disgusting part of politics. Like, how hypocritical do you have to be to blame a mental illness but not do anything about the healthcare that these people receive and to not give them the treatment that they need? And this doesn't just mean throwing them a cocktail of medication and hoping that it works. We need actual scientific studies proving that if these medications are gonna work. We need new innovative studies and treatments that'll actually do something, because right now all the medications that we have are just masking the problem and not actually solving it. 1 in 25 people in the United States suffers with a serious mental illness. That's things like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and major depressive disorder, or in other words, what all these politicians blame these shootings on. And 1 in 5 children suffer with mental disorders, which is something a little less serious than a mental illness, and that's things like anxiety disorders, including panic attacks, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, mild depression, personality disorders. Like, we're living in 2019 and we're more worried about the government taking our guns away than we are about our children and the people actually suffering with these illnesses. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing against the Second Amendment or owning a rifle of any sorts. As far as I'm concerned, in the right hands, a gun is seriously not a problem. In fact, the FBI and the CDC actually just came out with a report that says who has guns, not which guns, linked to the murder rates. So in my opinion, if you're a normal, stable person, you can own any gun you want. Now that being said, should somebody with a mental illness own a gun? It's debatable, and it's when the waters get kind of murky, because 70% of suicides committed by a mentally ill person are with a firearm, so it would depend on what type of mental illness and if the psych evaluation for the gun that they were trying to get would go through. And that's when regulation and all these things that people on the left are talking about does come into play. And we shouldn't be completely mute to this. We should listen and try to actually cooperate so that we can have a better system for everybody. Because there's craziness on both sides, and you'd be a hypocrite to deny that. Both political parties have their extreme and their not so extreme, so we have to find a common ground that is best for Americans. We're not left or right, we are essentially all the same. And that's about all I wanted to talk about in this video, and just to prove that video games and mental illness are not specifically linked to violence. So leave your comments down below, I'd be interested to hear that, and leave a like on the video if you liked it, obviously, and subscribe for more content. I'm Philly the Kid. Later.
Dance, dance to the dead.